Good morning, Swamiji. Good morning to everybody who's joining. I welcome you with so much love and respect. I'm so happy that you're all here. And I'm so thrilled to have you, Swamiji, here today as our special guest and as my very special friend and honored teacher. Yeah. I consider you to be a teacher of mine, and I would love to start, as I always do, with satsang, with opening mantras, and I will put them on the screen here, so you can keep yourself all muted, but you can chant with me. Can you all see them? Yeah? Okay. So take a moment to get settled, to find your seat. And then take a deep breath in. Exhale and relax. Soften. Starting with 3 ohms. Om. Om. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahana Bonaktu Sahaviryam Karavahahi Tejas Vinavadetamastu Ma Vidvishavahi. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Asato Ma Satkamaya Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya Mrityurma Amritam Gamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Universal prayer. May all of the wicked return to good. May all who are good obtain true peace. May all who are peaceful be freed from bonds. May all who are free set others free. Blessings upon all the people on earth. May all the world's rulers uphold what is right. May only good fortune befall everyone. May all the world's creatures obtain happiness. May the rain fall when the earth is thirsty. May all the storehouses be filled with grain. May everyone here be free from harm. May all who are good be free from fear. May everyone know a life of joy. May everyone live a life of health. May everyone see only good in this world. May everyone soon be released from pain. May everyone overcome all their woes. May everyone see only good in this world. May everyone realize all their desires. May everyone everywhere be glad. May our mother and father be blessed. Blessings upon every creature on earth. May our works flourish and aid everyone. And long may our eyes see the sun. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Place your hands on your heart, left hand first and the right on top, and bow your head in reverence towards your own heart. And then breathe into the hands. With great respect and love, I honor my heart, my inner teacher. Namaste. Once again, breathe in and repeat with me. With great respect and love, I honor my heart, my inner teacher. Namaste. Om Namah Shivaya. Take a moment to allow for the essence of those words to spread throughout your body and beyond after your inhalation and upon the exhalation. And inhale, open your eyes and rub your hands, activating the energy in your hands. And bless your own eyes, cupping the hands over the eyes. Taking in a deep breath, nourishing eyesight. And releasing the hands whenever you're ready. Thank you. Welcome, Swamiji. I introduce to those of you who have not yet had the incredible fortune of meeting Swamiji, because I can tell you that is a very auspicious blessing. And I will keep whatever I'm going to say short to give all time to you, Swamiji, to guide us and to share with us, just with a little introduction. Swamiji and we met probably, I lost count, but I think about 12, 13 years ago at Kashi Ashram in Florida. And I will never forget that moment. And what I was thinking this morning, what is essential to tell people, it's exactly that sometimes you meet somebody and you're deeply touched just by their presence. It is something that happens when you sit to somebody who is a very elevated person, who is a very good person, and who is doing a lot of good, that immediately touches you deep down in your core. And that's what happened to me. And you are really your name. You are really your name. You are a bundle of light, fierce light. And I have so much respect and love for you, for which maybe I should explain to people that if you make the choice to dedicate your life in selflessly serving others for all of your life, consistently showing up to be there for others, to support others, to be a guiding light, to be an anchor, and to dedicate all your Shakti to that. That is an incredible commitment. And that is coming from such deep, incredible, consistent, prolonged work over somebody themselves, their own process. It's only that somebody can write a book like Swamiji did because of the work she did herself. And you know what I always say, it's all about your own sadhana. It's all about what you do. But it's very difficult to do that on your own. You need people around you who encourage you, who inspire you, who lift you, who support you, who cheer you on, who love you unconditionally beyond all the stories. Yeah, you agree, Swamiji?
I totally agree. I do. I totally agree.
I'd love to give the mic to you and to ask you to, because some of your community are joining here, so they know you very well. So I'm so happy for all of you to come and be here. And I will go for one moment to gallery to see everybody who's here now in person. Yeah, so thank you for joining here. And some joined even later on. So Annette, thank you for joining. She's joining from the Netherlands. Yeah. And Sid, she's joining, I think, from Alaska. I'm not sure whether you're now, Sid. And Erica, I'm not sure. That's probably somebody of your community. Yeah.
I guess Erica's here with us.
Yeah, wonderful. So I hope I didn't forget anybody. If I did, so much love to you all. Kristen, you're here. Oh, lovely, joining from Colorado. So anyway, I'm so happy to have you here, Swamiji. And for those who don't know you, can you please just share with us a little bit about your life?
Sure.
What catapulted you into becoming a Swami and into a very unusual lifestyle? Yeah,
It was an unexpected path. Let's just say that. Yeah, really, really happy to be here. And one of the things that Chinnamasta left out was that I also knew her husband. I knew Mukunda for years and years before I met Chinnamasta. And he used to come and teach here in Atlanta with me at our yoga teacher trainings and different things. I know a number of you, Amrit and Scott, Baba Lakshmi, a number of you have met him. So we'll hold him in this space with all of us today as well. But yeah, I started practicing yoga out of a book when I was 14 years old. And it was immediately a deep experience for me. And it was the first time I had ever encountered anything where I think I was always naturally spiritually curious person. And I grew up in the Catholic tradition. And for whatever reason, the particular, diocese that I was in, and also the particular family I was in, were both quite sexist. And so there wasn't really a role for women in those paths. And when I started practicing yoga, I just nicked a yoga book from my older sister. And it was in the 60s, and, yoga was becoming a thing in the United States. And I just started doing the practices. It was kind of outlined a month-long plan of meditation and pranayama and mantra and yoga postures, asanas. And it had a really profound effect on me. It was probably the first time I had experienced something like that, where it was almost more like remembering than learning. It was touching something in me at the same time I was first learning about it. And so, I just dove into it. I just started doing it and really never stopped. So, 46 years later, here I still am doing all these crazy practices, because I just think you can't argue with results. When you find something that moves you or touches you or alleviates suffering in you, I'm the kind of person, I think, well, okay, that worked. Let's try it again. What happens if I do it? If I do it once, it does this. If I do it 127 times, it does that. So that's how I started. And I would have never said that I would end up becoming a Swami, or I was an artist trained, I have a BFA. I was trained as an artist, and always a wild yoga art girl, and still am a wild yoga art girl. So it doesn't matter the aging or anything. I will claim that till my last breath, being a wild yoga art girl. So, I think like when I found not just yoga, but then kept going deeper, like, I started out, reading the classics. Like in high school, I read Siddhartha, and then the Bhagavad Gita, and then the Upanishads. And, I was just curious. And they just kept teaching me different things. And then I moved to Atlanta to go to college. And at the end of my, like, the last year in college, I was thinking about teaching. I had done a couple teacher trainings, and I was thinking about teaching. And then a couple close friends of mine got really sick. And I was in the whole Midtown Atlanta art scene at that time. And it was the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. And so a couple friends got really sick. Nobody knew what it was, just all these things. And I ended up getting connected with Atlanta's big inner city hospital, which was just as, intense as any other big city inner hospital in the 1980s. It was not an enlightened place in any way, is what I'm really trying to say. So it's the beginning of the AIDS epidemic. And they asked me if I would teach contemplative arts for people being diagnosed with AIDS and HIV, because it was helping people. And so that's really how I started doing, kind of karma yoga, using yoga and all the tools and philosophies of yoga as a way to give back and to help people figure out how to navigate the intensity of life. And so I started, I taught there for years and years, and all kinds of things happened. The nurses started coming, the doctors started coming, a group of Tibetan monks started coming. It just became a thing. And but it really, for me, the yoga was not, I was never a person who was extremely flexible in the yoga postures. I love the feeling of what yoga does, what the asana practice does for me. But my inclination was always to get into the experience, right? To kind of use the breath and use the meditation and the mantra and the practices really get into the experience. And I grew up in a really tumultuous household, which I wrote a number of stories about. I just published a book. So Chinnamasta was like, whoa, there's your story in all its wildness. So
here's the book. I don't know whether you can see it. Yeah, just showing it to you in the camera. There you go.
thank you. It's still such a wild thing, truthfully. But so I grew up in alcoholic household, just a lot of chaos and just very difficult upbringing. And I really think that the tools and the skills of the yogic tradition is what saved me. And so that's what I wrote about, really. I said, okay, how can we, I kind of framed the book around the yamas and the niyamas, which if you studied the 8-limb path, which I know with Chinnamasta you do,
Yeah.
right?
So thank you so much for sharing that. So because I feel personally myself always that for most people, the willingness to go deep, to dig deep, what pushes you to go deep is often difficulty in life. Yeah. Because, and it is really beautiful that when I had a session with somebody this week, that this person said, there's no other way. You have to go deep. You have to go deep in order to get to the bottom of things, to go deep into the well. Would you agree with that? Is that also how it worked for you?
Yeah, I think, for me, I feel like one of the things that really worked for me was, instead of looking at my suffering, like all the things that I experienced that broke my heart, instead of looking at it solely as heartbreak and something to be experienced, one of the teachings that I loved was use it as fuel, right? Is how can you use whatever you're handed as fuel for your own evolution? And I thought, well, some of us got given rocket fuel. Some of us got a lot of fuel to work with here. So it shifted my perspective on, I guess I would even say it changed my relationship with suffering.
Wow, that is beautiful. I think that is such a beautiful perspective, to not keep on repeating necessarily that you're in the suffering, but that the suffering is your rocket fuel.
Right.
And how you can change your perspective, as we know, of course, from the sutras, what you do, Pratipaksi Bhavana, yeah, and how you can change your perspective on that, what you've gone through. I think that is a massive lesson for all of us. Thank you for that. Yeah.
It's not, I'm not saying it's easy. I'm not saying it's easy
No,
to
oh
go.
God. Oh God, no.
Right. I think it's actually very difficult because we get kind of mired in the density of suffering. It's so, and especially right now, I mean, look at the levels of suffering that we're seeing in the world and that we're experiencing in ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you do that? Because I think that many resonate with this, that what I've heard, especially the last years, that it's been just too much too often, and that people basically, you would almost say, pass out, or they withdraw because they can't take it. How do you deal with it?
Well, there definitely are moments of dark chocolate. There's definitely moments of going, the only thing that can possibly address this is another square of chocolate. I think we all do
How would
that.
we be without chocolate?
Chinnamasta and I both love food. I know that. So there are moments like that where you go, okay, I have to just soften it all for myself somehow. I have to let myself stop striving to fix it or to deal with it or to understand it. Even sometimes the world is the world is such a mystery. And the way people choose to behave can also be such an astonishing mystery. But I do think that there's, honestly, I think self-worth has a huge piece in this. And this is really interesting for me because I came from very little self-worth, from a family and a tradition that taught me that I would never be good enough. No matter what I did, I was less than. And I think that the teachings, like I said, like if you can change your framework around the heartbreak or the suffering, then it's like, wait a second, one of the things that I think is that the yoga practices, the yamas and the niyamas, are supposed to teach us how to center self-worth within ourselves. And I think where we locate self-worth is actually a really important teaching, because we can, especially right now, we can locate it outside of ourselves very easily. Right? We can say, well, my self-worth is in my job or my successes. My self-worth is in my relationship status. My self-worth is in my body weight or my body strength or whatever it is. We say that those are the things that, we love to feel good and to be successful and to be rocking our job and our love life. But our self-worth is actually, it belongs to us. To me, this is one of the asteya teachings. Like if you're talking about the yamas, asteya, if you first look at it, it says, don't steal stuff. Thou shalt not steal.
Yeah.
Right? Don't take other people's stuff. Don't steal other people's ideas. Don't, right? Very simple. But I think that I think the self-worth teachings are actually the teachings that asteya are supposed to address. Like, I actually think that all these different principles have so much richness and depth. And it's really one of the reasons why I wrote the book, because I thought I want to do a deep dive on each one of these and figure out, well, what gives us sticky fingers in the first place? Like, what makes us needy in the first place? If asteya is about not taking things or not crediting things in ways that don't reinforce our self-worth, that they actually undermine our self-worth. How can we use these teachings and philosophies to kind of address the hungry nature of our minds? Not just that we need a piece of chocolate, because every day we do. After lunch, after this call, there will be dark chocolate in my life. But I think it's supposed to address scarcity thinking.
Yeah. I love that. I love that idea of how can we address it? So you make it very practical. I love that. And that you're using or applying the yamas and the niyamas, my love for that, my love for the sutras. And Mukunda's love for the sutras, he churned with the sutras for about 30 years before he even published the translation.
Right.
And I love that you say that to center yourself around self-worth instead of centering yourself around everything that's happening outside of you, that you can cultivate, you can strengthen yourself through self-worth, or you can cultivate the self-worth in you. So how would you do that? How would you do that?
Yeah, how would you do that? That's always the perpetual question, right? And I think part of it is, I think the benefit of regular practice, I'm a practitioner. So even though all of us at different times struggle with getting on the mat or getting on the cushion or, taking care of other people, I think that the consistency of showing up for yourself to do the practices is extremely powerful. And I think that, it's almost like once we realize that the problem and the solution are inside of us.
Yeah.
We stop looking out there for it to fix us. And we start going, oh, I call that Rudra's arrow. You know, you guys love Om Namah Shivaya, right? Rudra is a form of Shiva. And that arrow of discernment says, if I'm suffering, I'm asked as a yogi to turn the arrow back towards my own chest, to not point the finger and blame anybody else, even though they might be at fault. They might be extremely at fault. That's their work to discern. My work to discern is in here. Like, how do I take the impact and realize, even though I banged into somebody or somebody banged into me, that heartbreak is there to teach me something. It's not there just to break me.
Yeah.
And then again, your perspective shifts and you go, well, damn, I guess I've got more work to do because my heart's broken again.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, okay, well, I need to be able to sit with it and to, pick up the tools, to pick up one of the tools, I have often referred to the yamas and the niyamas as a toolkit. And it's one of the reasons I wanted to kind of focus in on that part of the Yoga Sutra, to say, look, there is a toolkit. Just, it doesn't matter which one of those 10 tools that you pick up, but pick one up.
Yeah. So I love that. I love that. And Swamiji, how did you then came to the idea to center those 10 tools in your book?
I think more than anything else, I think that came from living the teachings for so long. From the decades of just doing the
Of course, you were going to say that, but yeah.
Yeah. Right. Of just saying, okay, what are because I also feel like to pick up the Yoga Sutra and read it and call out the teachings isn't that easy right now, because we're overwhelmed with information.
Yeah.
And that's information that you have to pull on the threads to discern what the teachings are. And so I wanted to go, look, I want to pick up these 10 threads, that I see as some of the most powerful teachings that helped me figure out self-worth and how to be in the world without being so brutalized by it, just feeling so overwhelmed and brutalized by it. And so I thought, let me pull out these 10 threads. Sutra means thread. So I thought, let me pull out these 10 threads and really be the bridge. I kind of translate them in a way that people can go, oh, that makes total sense. That if I don't resolve my internal hunger, I come hungry to every relationship. I come hungry to every situation. I have to be able to touch it and say, it's okay that I have needs. It's okay that I'm hungry.
Yeah. So it's like feeding the hungry ghosts. Yeah.
Yeah, right? Like the Buddhists. As yogis, we love the Buddhist stories about the hungry ghost. With the hungry ghost story says you have the tiny, tiny mouth and the gigantic belly.
Yes.
Right. And so it's like, no matter how much you try to get in it, how much sensual pleasure or fame or followers or headstands or anything, it's like the desire can get out of balance. And we want to establish that sense of balance. And that comes from the self-worth, where it's like, if I'm in the middle of a divorce, it breaks my heart. But it doesn't break my worth.
Yeah. I love what you say, that the 10 threads, if I rephrase it, are your bridges to self-worth. And another thing that I love what you're saying is that it's like how to deal and balance your desires. And I always refer to There's a difference between desire where you're grasping, or where there is an inner longing, an inner longing to come home, an inner longing that is rendering you more open, that is relaxing you deeper, and the desire is aggravating you or is making you more tamasic, either one. Yeah. Would you agree with that?
I love that, Chinnamasta. I think that's so beautifully said. And it's very much said through that Ayurvedic lens, right? Of saying, okay, now you're out of balance, because we all have needs. We all need to be loved and connected and fed in all the different ways. And that's part of our nature. It's a good, beautiful, powerful part of our nature. But it's where desire becomes craving and demand and need, where it becomes insatiable, that we really get into trouble.
That word, insatiable, that's the word. Yeah,
Insatiable,
that's the
yeah.
word. The word. So you know, when we were talking about what we were going to talk about, or what you would like to share, came up with the topic, at least that jumped out to me, was standing in your own truth, yeah, of who you are. And if we go from self-worth, and how would you weave that with standing in your own truth?
Well, I think that, okay, so I'm going to shift to the second of the yamas is satya, right? Which means truth. And it's, kind of like asteya is thou shalt not steal, satya is thou shalt not lie, right? They're very similar. You see how yoga is naturally interfaith, and how the different traditions overlap and influence each other. But that idea that, a lot of people, I think, when we talk about truth and satya, they think, oh, I've got that one, I'm good with that one. I really try not to lie. I really do my best to rein it in when I want to, when I get caught in a moment of desire for pretense. I want to pretend to be bigger than I am, or I want to pretend to be something that I'm not. That's a form of a lie, right? Pretense is a form of a lie. It's the pretend version of you. When we have pretense, we're pretending to be something that we're not. So again, that self-worth says I can center myself in who I am and not need to be bigger than I am. I can stand in that deep relationship with reality. And that's truth, right? If I have a friendship with reality, if I have that deep relationship with reality, the reality of who I am is enough. So I would put it there, Chinnamasta, but I would also put that, I think self-worth is really the unstealable thing that people they can put shadow on it. They can convince us that we're not worth something. But if we stand in that space and say, I have work to do because I'm suffering, I think it becomes the unstealable thing. And I think that our lovability has a similar relationship with truth, with satya, because I think probably the most common lie that all of us tell without realizing that we are lying every single day is we tell ourselves, or we believe about ourselves, that we are unlovable.
Wow.
And that is one of the most damaging lies that we ever tell, because we would sit in a room full of people and say, oh, all these other people are lovable. Of course, if you asked me, could I love you? Are you lovable? I would say, absolutely. But I don't say that to myself.
So where is that coming from? That is so difficult for all of us, that we all doubt.
We
That
all
we're
doubt
not
our
lovable.
worth.
Why do we doubt?
Yeah, I think it's those threads of heartbreak that we haven't fully healed.
Mm.
And I think, right, that healing heartbreak, and I typically, when I'll teach a group like this, I'll say, okay, anybody on here never had their heart broken?
Okay, here I'll go back to gallery. So,
Raise your hand if you've never had your heart broken.
yeah.
Not yet. I have never yet. I have taught in hundreds of people, thousands of people, auditoriums full, not one single person. At one point, I asked a group of kids, because I was like, they're like 7 to 11, 12 years old, right? Do you remember that, Chadas? We were hanging out with this group of kids, and I was like, I'm going to ask my question here. Has any of you ever, have all of you had your heart broken? And they all went,
Oh, wow. Yeah.
yeah. So I think it's part of the human experience.
Mhm.
That's one of the things that taught me, that moment taught me. I was like, oh, none of us are going to slide out of that one.
Yeah.
None of us. So there must be something really powerful about heartbreak. And part of that, I think, is because, I mean, what else takes you to your knees like that?
Mm.
What else takes you to your knees like heartbreak does?
Yeah. You
And
won't
so
bow,
you go, oh, you've got my
won't bow,
attention now, right? Okay, I'm
won't
paying
bow your
attention.
mind. You won't bow your mind because, yeah, that's where you lose the control.
Yeah.
It's
And
my favorite
that's,
song. It's my favorite. What comes up is in the last year that Mukunda was alive and he could barely walk anymore. And it was very difficult, obviously. And we go outside for like a 10-minute walk. And halfway, we meet this beautiful security guard who had such radiance. And he was very big. So Mukunda was like that, going with his head up. And the man reached out and he said, so it was about heartbreak, and it was about, what happens when your heart breaks. And of course, his heart was breaking. He was falling apart. We were both falling apart. And then the man started singing. It turned out that he was actually a reverend. So security guard being a reverend. And he chanted to Mukunda while he was holding his hand on his head. He said, God's in control. God's in control. No matter what you go through, God's in control. And he had a CD, because of course he had an amazing voice. And he said, let me pop the CD in your door, because we were just right out of her house. And it was, of course, gospel music. And whenever I would feel at the end of my rope, then I would put on that music and I would put Mukunda on my back and pull his arms over me. And I would lift him like that. And I would start dancing through the room, chanting, God's in control.
it's beautiful.
That's what it
Beautiful.
is. Huh? When your heart breaks and there's nothing else you can do, and you're like, my God, I can't take any more. Then you meet this beautiful person who tells you, yeah, that's the only thing you can do. You can submit yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. That's beautiful. You can submit yourself, right?
Yeah.
Because, the fifth of the niyamas, the last of these 10 threads, these 10 principles we're talking about, it's surrender. But I always love this one because I just think it's so lush. It's so difficult. I do think it's 10th for a reason. And I think it's 10th because it's the hardest one. And the most subtle one, the most kind of difficult to really attune yourself to. But I always love that it's like it's surrender and devotion. Like
Mhm.
that word doesn't translate, or that phrase doesn't translate just as surrender. It's what you just said, right? When you surrender, if you can surrender, it's not capitulation. It's surrender and devotion. It's like when you surrender, you let go, you don't give up.
Yeah. No, you surrender to the bath of love, of endless love.
Yes. And then there your heart
It's
opens in
not easy,
devotion.
but once you do it, yeah, well,
Yeah.
we all know, yeah, once you do it, it's such a release, isn't it? It's such a release. It's, I think, the question that I get a lot from people, how do I do that? How do I surrender? And I said, well, I would love to know from you. How do you surrender?
Right. But you exactly hit the thing. It's, at one point when we were talking about the name for my book, right? The Embodied is the name of it. But
Mhm.
one of the other titles when I was working with a publisher and with my group and my staff and stuff was Love Anyway. Because for so many years I've said, well, you could basically distill all of the teachings that I have done all over the world, all of these people, down to two words, which is love anyway.
Yeah.
Because when you're broken down, the film, it's like, what is in that breakdown with me? Can I breathe in love and can I breathe out love?
Mhm.
And let it be that simple
Mhm.
until, like, it's surrender and devotion, because the surrender will take you into the heart if you let it. If you
Mm,
stop trying to control everything and grappling and demanding, and you
mm.
open, oh, there's the heart, there's the sacred inside the heart, right? It's not just your heart and your love. There's a
Yeah.
deeper heart in all of us, that it's like that self-worth or that truth, that lie that we tell ourselves we're unlovable, which separates us from our sacredness,
Mhm.
because the love that exists in us is our sacredness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then
You know what Mukunda always used to say? When you sit in truth, when you sit in the truth of who you are, there's no stress. When you move away from truth, there's stress in life. So I think it is so important as a very practical, in a practical application in daily life, to realize, to feel, embody in your body when you are stressed and how that affects you and what happened. You moved away from the truth of who you are. What do you think about that?
well, I think that the further you move away from the truth of who you are, the more dense the suffering,
Mm,
right? That gets more opaque and difficult to polish the lens, where you can see your way back to the truth,
yeah.
right? So that's why practice, that's why we practice. It's like, oh, every time I practice, I polish the lens just a little bit more. Even if my meditation sucked for one day, at least I sat down and I said, I'm going to put the cloth on the lens and I'm going to try to polish the lens of my mind so I can settle myself in myself.
Yeah, so you say, I wrote it down to not forget it. Truth is being in deep relationship with reality.
Mhm.
Well, that's a hard one.
It's a hard one. And then then reality is that I am love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You can
So,
even go beyond the am I lovable and say, well, reality is I actually am love.
yeah, wow, get there.
See why this is why, 40 years later, we're still doing this crazy stuff, is because it works. You go, oh, right. You get to those truths that you can't argue with.
Yes. And what I love and respect so much about you is that you are being so real. You are being so real and you're being so accessible. And there's not this sense of what I believe is a misconception when teachers are on a pedestal and people think that there's nothing happening in their life and everything is always okay with them, which of course, where did that come from?
Yeah, where did that come from?
Of course it
Yeah,
isn't.
because talk about bullshit, talk about really something where you're like, oh yeah, no, we're all human, we all struggle, and we all make mistakes.
Yeah.
I mean, you see it play out all the time, in the yoga world, even, right, where teachers make mistakes because they're still on the path. They're
Are
still trying to figure it
you
out.
having chocolate?
It's not chocolate, it's a cough drop. Because I've been talking since like 7 o'clock this morning. I taught a class and then a class and now this class. But it's a very good cough drop. But yeah, right, where you just go, okay, where did that come from? Like this, I actually think, okay, here's something that I've been thinking about lately. So I have never taught this before, but this is, we're talking about being imperfect and being in the churn. I actually think that in some ways, the Eastern tradition and the Western tradition kind of came together, right? You know how yoga got co-opted to some degree by the West, and we all fell in love with it because it's a mystical, deep, amazing, effective practice, and started doing all these practices and had influence back on this ancient Eastern tradition, right? And so it's kind of at the point that we've experienced it in this lifetime, it flows back and forth. It's not all the Eastern tradition, there's Western influence in it. And so I actually think that, okay, here's my new idea. I've literally never even said this before. I'm going to ask it as a question because I don't know the answer. Has the Western dictate of perfectionism come into the Eastern influence of the guru tradition and the teacher-student relationship, and kind of bolstered up that idea of the gurus or the teachers both needing to be perfect and being seen as perfect, which, I've studied with with a couple of different gurus before I met my guru. And I can tell you with absolute certainty that all three of those gurus were human. They were human.
Yeah.
They weren't perfect. They weren't cooked all the way to perfection. But, even though they were really wise and really incredible,
Yeah.
I actually think right now, the time that we're living in now, it's very important to hold space for people's humanity as well as their divinity.
Yeah. And what comes to me is what Prakashananda, which was the teacher who initiated Mukunda and me into the Tantric teachings, Swami Prakashananda was very much devoted to Muktananda. Yeah. And Bhagavan, Nityananda. Yeah.
My first teacher.
Yes. And my root guru, as you know. And how he said, when there were stories about humanity and about, things that happened that were inappropriate. Number one, even the guru can fall. up till the last breath. Also, the guru can fall. So up till your last breath, you need to be practicing on knowing that you are in a physical body and that you're exposed to the gunas. So the gunas will continue to play through you, even if you are a guru or swami, whatever, and I think that is so important for everybody to realize that in our humanity, we make mistakes and we mess up. I call it, I mess up, and so he would say, even the guru can fall. And another one that really spoke to me in that perspective, talking about, when you are very much revert to somebody and you learn a lot from them, he would say, always remain independent. And in the sense of that, you always have to check in with this one, whether something feels right to you, whether it's correct, whether it is holding the highest integrity, whether it is truthful. Yeah. And never without thinking or without using your own discrimination, just submit yourself. You have to use your own awareness too. You have to cultivate that. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's how you live the teachings. I think that's really how you live the life of a yogi. I look at everybody here and I think, oh, what a beautiful group of yogis. Everybody's striving to be good and do good and put good into the world. And, the only thing that could make this life harder would be if you were doing the opposite, if you were trying to put harm into the world. This life is so hard anyway. But to say, yeah, it's tricky business, this path to liberation, because, right, it's I don't think it's supposed to be easy, but I do think it's supposed to be joyful.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'll sign up for that one.
Yeah, right. Where it's like, okay, look, we're going to get our asses kicked, but we're going to have fun while we're doing it.
Very enjoy it. Yeah.
And I'm telling you, that is literally what I learned in the AIDS ward in a hospital with a pile of gay men, prostitutes, and needle users. That's what I learned from that group of people was, well, we can laugh and have fun. We're going to look death in the face.
Yeah.
And figure out how to do it as consciously as we can, but you better believe we're going to have fun.
Wow, that's a truth teller. Huh? That's a truth teller. Yeah, can get around one.
Yeah. Well, and that's kind of one of the things is, I felt like at that point, impermanence, like I got taught really early on the teachings of impermanence. Right. And we've touched in some Buddhist thought and Hungry Ghost and, Shiva, Om Namah Shivaya, the teacher of impermanence, to be able to say, Shiva would be known to sit in the cremation ground and say, oh, yeah, whatever it is, don't buy into it being permanent, except for love, except for truth. Like when you spoke about Bhagavan Nityananda, I thought, okay, there could have been gurus that were all the way done. Like he was at that level, right? Where you're like, okay. But I do think there's something about the time that we're living in that has, I don't know, I think we tend to think it's like our thoughts harden in a certain way. Our thoughts, I used the word opaque earlier. Our thoughts become opaque and we can get entrenched in being right. And right now, I think that is so dangerous. And it's so dangerous for spiritual seekers and for yogis because I mean, okay, bear with me for a second. In a lot of ways, you are right. You're on the side of the good. You're right. You're trying to do social justice work. You're trying to believe in equality, in goodness for everybody, and all the things, right? So it's so tricky because in a lot of ways, you're right. But you can't get rigid in your rightness, because as soon as you think you're stuck in being right about everything, you're in that thing of perfectionism. You're stuck in the desire to be right, and now there's no room for the other people to breathe and find their way into the deep dimensions that you're trying to help them get to.
Yeah, there's no room to learn. Eh? When you get in that righteous place, you're never gonna learn.
Right.
You're gonna learn about the other who might have a different point of view. Yeah.
And I think that right now, this polarization that we see happening really all over the world. I mean, it is jacked up in the US right now. For those of you who are not in the US, I think it's jacked up all over the world, but you'll have to tell me that. But it is jacked up in the US right now as far as people polarizing the opposite side.
Yeah.
And I think our ability, yoga is skill in action. Right? That's the definition of yoga from the Bhagavad Gita. And so to say, oh, well, how skillful am I being if I just think I'm right, if I can't listen and soften and open and try to understand, be curious about, how did this person get to this way of thinking?
Yeah. I love that. Be curious. So I'm going to write it down to not forget it. So,
so good.
Ask you if you
Srinivas is so organized. That is not my forte. The fact that I actually called everything into the book and turned it into the publisher and got it published is a miracle. Just so you know, anybody that knows me is like, oh yeah, just likes to hang out with people and chat about all this stuff.
So, Swamiji, would you be okay for the mic to be opened for people to ask you questions and about whatever they want to ask about the book or about themselves, about the practice, anything? Yeah. Is there anybody who would like to ask a question? If so, please raise your hand and unmute yourself.
And be brave, be fearless.
Do it, because this
I'm not scary. Sometimes
really.
I'm scary, but right now, no, I'm just kidding.
Lisa, I'm just going to do it. I'm sure you have a question.
Hello, Swamiji. It's such an honor to meet you, to be in the space here with you. Shinamasa knows I have a question, so I need to check in, see where that is. I'd love to hear about Ma.
Say it again.
Your guru.
Oh, about Ma. Yes. Okay. That's fun. That's really fun. I could talk about that all day. So, well, let me actually take it a little bit to meeting Ma. Is that okay? Do you have a specific question about her that you want? Okay. Because, I met Ma, my guru, Ma Jaya. I don't know, I'm not very good at linear time, but I was young. I was in my, I think I'm going to say early 30s. Janice, is that right? Where's Amrit? I always tease Amrit. I'm like, you have to keep track of time for me because I am terrible at time. Okay, I'm good. So, like I said, before that, I had studied with a couple of different gurus. I was a spiritual seeker and a yogi. And I just thought, every time I do these practices, I keep growing. I keep shedding the weight that I grew up in. And so I'm just going to keep leaning in and exploring and doing them. And when I met Ma, the first time I saw her, it was a big yoga celebration out in New Mexico for the summer solstice. And she was receiving an award. And so she didn't really teach. She just was up there, you know, receiving this big award and stuff. But then I was in New York City, maybe 6 months later, and she was teaching, and I went with some friends. And I was really taken aback by her level of Shakti. And you guys are yogis and tantrics, so you know Shakti is spiritual energy that is infused with love. It's not just Kundalini, right? Kundalini is spiritual energy, but Shakti is Kundalini infused with love. So only if it passes through the heart chakra does it become Shakti. And she had so much Shakti, it was intimidating. It was, you know, I just was joking around about being scary. And that's, people kind of lean back when you have a lot of Shakti, because on the one hand, it's attractive, it's alluring, it's intense. But on the other hand, it's a little terrifying, it's intimidating. It's, you know, if I ask this question, I'm going to hear some truth. And am I ready to hear truth? Do I want to hear truth? That's one of the things that gurus are kind of known for, is being aligned with truth. And so when I first met her, I was with my boyfriend at the time, fiance, you know, we got engaged a little bit after that. But he had met her before, and I was afraid of her, because she was, well, on the one hand, she was a fully empowered woman. And I had not really met I had not met any other women gurus at that time. And it was super attractive to me, but also, you know, just like anybody, any of the greats. And Ma was one of the greats. She embodied so much Shakti, you'd make your hair blow off the top of your head. Where's Baba? It would snatch her wig. We were talking about snatching wigs the other night, right? Thank you. But you just kind of go, oh, okay. It's intense being around truth tellers. But I, you know, like I said, I had read all these spiritual books. I had studied with these different teachers, and I can't remember which yogic scripture this comes from, but it might be the Hatha Yoga Pradipika, but yeah, I can't remember. But there's a passage in one of the yogic scriptures that said, if you really are serious about your freedom, right? If you're really serious about unshackling yourself from suffering and understanding what liberation is about, you should seek a guru. You should seek for your guru like a man with his hair on fire seeks water. You should get on it, and you should get on it now. And so I was kind of in that, you know, I was kind of like, okay, you know, I knew that the two teachers I had studied with before were not my guru, because for me, that guru and student relationship, I actually think, you know how the Sanskrit name of the heart chakra is Anahata, and it means, the translation is unstruck sound, which was such a mystery to me when I was first learning about the chakras. I was like, well, what does the heart chakra have to do with sound? It seems like it should be the throat chakra or something, right? But I think the sound, that the striking happens, I think it has to happen to accept someone as your guru. Your heart should be struck by them the way a gong is struck. Like there should be such a resonance that happens in your inner heart that you go, oh, wow, that kind of love is what I've been trying to understand. Like in the spiritual seeking, all of us, I believe, are seeking a deeper experience of love. In some ways, because we're seeking the deepest experience of self. Right? If you are love, you are seeking to merge. That's the union of yoga, is to merge fully into that love. Right? So when you surrender, what you let go of is all the crap that isn't that. all the attachments, all the fears, all the unworthiness, all the opacity that isn't that has to go for you to get into that merge state where you go, oh, that's what everybody's talking about. That's what all the yogis are talking about. There it is. Now I found it. Now I'm really in trouble. I might end up in orange as a Swami. God knows I'll be serving humanity forever. Careful what you ask for.
So beautiful. Thank you so much for telling that. So you were struck by Ma, Thunderbolt.
Yeah, it's like the thunderbolt of devotion, with the Hanuman teachings. They say there's a thunderbolt that Hanuman throws. It's the thunderbolt of the open heart, of saying, I want, for me, Lisa, but everybody really, for me, I want a life that's infused with love. I'm a lover. I believe in love more than I probably believe in anything else.
Wow, what a beautiful statement. Yeah.
What else are you going to get behind? I mean, just find something to get behind that lights your heart on fire.
Yeah.
And get behind it.
Promise to yourself, to remind yourself of that. If you think, well, what is truly important? What do I want? What do I want in my life? Why am I doing all of this?
What do I want? I think what do I want is one of the hardest questions to answer ever. Does anybody else think that? Like, what do you want? Right, Baba? What do you want? And it's just like, well, I didn't know it was going to matter that much.
Swami Jaya does. What do you want?
Thank you, Chinnamasta. What do I want? I think I want to be in touch with what is real inside of me, and to kind of bring that and connect to the other people around me with what's real in them. I don't know, there's something there. There's a lot for me to learn there. I want that progression, that little bit, that to see a little more clearly, like who I am and who they are and how we're the same, and it's hard to see it sometimes in the midst of everything.
Love that. Love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'm so happy you're here too with us. You're kind of each other's sidekicks, I have the feeling. Huh? Yes. Very much so. Yeah. So is there anybody else who would like to ask something or share?
Namaste. I would like to share.
Go ahead.
So, okay? Swami Jaya Devi
The most spoiled human being that ever lived on earth, yes. Who's currently on vacation with his husband in the Dominican Republic. They didn't invite me. Just go ahead, ask a question.
Yes. Oh, and I'll tell you about this later. Stefan is at home. He chose not to go, and sad for him because I'm in the presidential suite. That's a whole different thing. So my question is, when you find your beloved teacher, how does one, it's so hard to, I find it from my own personal experience to, my goal is always liberation. I have a lot of goals. Like I want to get to the end, bliss, and never come back. And one of the things that Ma has annihilated me on, and I feel, Swami, you have too, is this whole idea of coming back to serve and coming back. Like, my question is, I want to go ahead and be like Swami Bhagavan Nityananda, and I'm here and I don't have to come back. It is freaking hard being a gay Black femme man, and I'm tired. Like this is not a rodeo for me, and I know everyone has their own stuff, but I'm not excited to always come back. So, I've emailed you 1,000 times, so I'm crazy. How do I get to that stage where I can really enjoy the journey of love, whether I come back or not? That's what I'm working on.
Well, that's why surrender is the 10th, because that's a form of surrender. And, I think right now, the way the world is, anybody that's jumping up and down, raising their hand, volunteering to come back, no, nobody is. It's like, it is so hard. I cannot believe how hard it is. There's going to be some sense of relief when we ride that last breath out. It is okay. It's just like, but I tell you what, I really do think, Baba, that if we're going to get the joy out of all of it, we're going to do it together. And we're just going to say, fine, we might have a little temper tantrum, especially some of us we might have a little temper tantrum and say, fine, I'll go back again. It's just unbearable down there, but okay, whatever. We got to get to the end. And okay, so that, but I also do think, there's this wild thing of yoga is a process of refinement. Right? We're constantly refining ourselves. We try to refine our thoughts and our actions. We try to use this toolkit to say, how do I stop raging at people or blaming systems or, putting it outside myself? How do I actually turn that arrow, Ruder's arrow of discernment, back and say, my work is here and I'm okay. You're amazing, and you're spoiled. You're an amazing and amazingly spoiled man. But I know that I'm lovable. I know that that's part of my work, is to claim that for myself as myself. And the more I do practice and the more it's like the more I share joy, the more joy there is. I used to say, at Kashi Atlanta, our ashram here in the middle of the city, we started, over a decade ago, I think. Amrit, you're going to have to get me on time again. We started a class for transgender people, right? A yoga for queer and transgender LGBTQ. And there was nothing around. There was, it was back in the day where there was none of that. There was no people fighting for transgender justice. And one of the things that I loved about that was, and it's one of the things that I love about all of our gay community, is the willingness, and the Black community, Baba, the willingness to live joyfully in the midst of homophobia, or in the midst of racism, or in the midst of there's 27 ismings happening right now. And to say, well, how can I, and for me, how can I, as, a cisgendered white woman, how can I uplift and support the communities that are being the most harmed? How can I do that and do it to the best of my ability? It's one of the reasons, I like to, I love to teach and I love to share, but I love to see others that are being othered by others out there doing it and rocking their fabulous lives. I have lots of students that are much, much more well-known teachers than I am. And I love that.
And I know that. And
right.
You're so humble about that, because I know who they are.
Right. And, I try not to brag about them and say them, but, some of the biggest meditation teachers, or Black meditation teachers, some of the biggest transgender teachers, you know what I mean? They've come through my doors. We've polished them up and we push them out there and go, the world desperately needs you. So I think if you're wise and you're smart, and I look around here and I go, there's a lot of wisdom accrued on this screen. I think, don't be afraid to use your heart and your love and your voice, not to polarize and get that, how magnets won't meet when we're on such opposite sides, but to use your Shakti, to use your energy that comes through your heart to say, I want the world to be better. That's the karma yogi's vow, that's why you come back, is because you say, there's so much suffering. I need to make a difference. I'm not the fix, I'm not the solution, but I'm not going to be part of the problem. To the best of my ability, I am going to lean in, I am going to have fun, and I am going to speak up and kind of do the right stuff. I'm going to lean in and do the right stuff so that less people are suffering. We're not going to make it without each other. If we don't do it together, we're not going to make it. We have to make it, and we have to make it together. And so that's where you start to go, damn it, I guess I'll just, come on, Bob and I always do this. I guess I'll just, thank you, put on my outfit and let it rip, because what else are you going to do?
Thank you so much, Bhava Jaya, for asking a very beautiful question and for a beautiful answer. And also to reiterate, Swamiji, that we can do it without each other.
Yeah.
I think that is such a beautiful note to maybe to take 5 minutes, like I gotta go to the bathroom, my bladder is full, and to take just 5 and then to come back, and maybe for you to read a passage from your book if you would like to, or to offer a practice to all of us so we can get settled, we can stretch our knees a little bit, like gotta stretch my knees. Yeah. And how about that? Is everybody okay with that? Does that feel like a good plan? Yeah. So I'm going to stop the recording for a second. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Welcome back to you all. And if you haven't since, I'm just waiting a second for Swamiji to come back. I have posted it also in Patreon. You can get the book anywhere, which of course I highly recommend. Yeah. And I'm looking forward for Swamiji to guide us in a practice for her to feel into what is appropriate for now. And for all of you to invite you to, if you need to, if you want to, you can go off camera. So you just listen. And at the end of the practice that Swamiji will be offering, I will chant the closing mantras. Thank you so much to all of you. And let's just take a moment of silence until Swamiji is ready. Swamiji, whenever you're ready, we're ready for you. And while we're all waiting, there's one thing that comes to me when I was listening to a lecture of Eckhart Tolle in Amsterdam. As Eckhart Tolle sat down on the stage, and he opened with not saying a single word for 15 minutes. And then he said, are you being present? Or are you waiting for something to happen? This is one of those moments. Just open your heart to the darshan of Swamiji, to her guru, Ma Jaya, Bhagavan Nityananda, Neem Karoli Baba. All the gurus are invited. We're ready for you, Swamiji.
Okay. Thank you. I think, let's see. Here's the book. I think we'll do a practice out of the book instead of reading a passage, if that's okay. So one of the ways that I laid out the book, it's each, it's 10 chapters, 10 principles, and each one of them has a mini practice and a deep practice. So we're going to do one of the practices together. Okay. So it's a short meditation practice. If you'll close your eyes for just a moment, lengthen your spine, right? Find your comfortable seat. And bring your awareness to your breath. And start by lengthening and deepening your breath. And softening your body. And especially right now, just soften the place where your physical form meets the air around you. Just that very surface, almost like an outline of your body. Just softening that meeting place. So that softness starts to seep in through your skin. But then let it come all the way in through all the layers. The layers of your physical body, the layers of the koshas. And just all the way in until you start to feel a sense of well-being. Just coming in bone deep. And as you start to bring that equanimity deep into the flesh of your body, then the bones of your body. Just bring your awareness for a moment to the base of your spine, to the first chakra. Asking that lotus to open and to heal so that you can rest easily in this body, in this form, this sacred home of your physical form. And no matter the different struggles you may have with your body, just ask for a moment of gratitude. Say, God, thank you that I get to be here, experiencing all of this. Thank you. For gratitude heals the first chakra. And you take a deep breath, almost as if the prana of the breath comes in and catches hold of Kundalini and pulls her up to the second chakra, right above the pubic bone. But in that womb, in all genders, but also the womb of creativity, of creative energy. All of us have it all the time. So just breathing in and out with an awareness of your creative force rising, increasing. With your simple awareness, your simple presence, your skill in action increases. And you take a deep breath in as if that prana could lift up into the second chakra and rise you up to the third chakra, Manipura, just above and behind the belly button. Understanding this chakra of power is there for you. It's there for you. Your power, your self-worth. your inner acknowledgement that your experience is meaningful, even when it seems like it isn't. It is. There's great purpose in you living your life as you. And just for a moment, you try to soften any tensions held in the first three chakras. In so many ways, those are the chakras of embodiment, of really saying yes to your humanity. And you breathe in, deep, deep breath in, into that third chakra. And some teachers say this is the longest passage that humanity makes, from the third chakra to the fourth. You bring your awareness right up to the center of the chest, and the lotus of the heart softly opens. It softly, deeply opens. And that heart lotus is opening in a way that maybe it never has before, because you're ready. You're curious. You want to know how to use Shakti to open your heart, to just heal a little more deeply, to love with a little more authority, a little more certainty that you are love, and that love is your birthright, and that people can break your heart, but they can't break you apart from that which you are. Om Tat Sat. I too am that. Om Tat Sat. And you feel the power, the wildness, the potential of living with an open heart. You bring your awareness to your throat for just a moment, just soothing away any words that you spoke in blame or in anger. You just soothe them. You're still growing and learning. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to say, I'm sorry. It doesn't mean you're not worthy of love. It means you're more lovable. And you bring your awareness between your eyebrows for just a moment. And you invite in the steadiness of the higher mind. The mind where you can watch the thoughts and know that you are not your thoughts. And you do not even need to be so influenced by your thoughts. Take a deep breath at the third eye. And lift your awareness to the top of your head where the baby soft spot was when you were an infant, where the soul enters into the body, where in practice you can remember your own sense of freedom, your own ability to embody your deepest truth. I am loved. I am loved by my sacred beloved, by the sacred beloved. Comes in many forms and shapes, and in no form at all, just the pure essence of being. But I am loved by my beloved. I am sacred. I am love. You let that light of who you are shine as bright as the sun. You take a deep breath in, and you simply ride the breath back down to the center of your chest that's now blazing with awareness. blazing with truth, just blazing with the light of you being you. And kindness pours forth. And you choose to love anyway, no matter what happens. You choose love. Take a deep breath in. As you let this breath go, just slowly begin to open your eyes. One more time, great big breath. Let the breath go. Thank you all for having me.
Thank you so much. Let me chant the closing mantras into your hearts. They're all here. Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnaudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Thou art ever one and ever whole. From thee this perfect world was born. Yet should all this world disappear from view, still you would always be the same. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. May all beings in all three worlds be happy and free from suffering. Place your hands on your heart. To reaffirm the relationship with your inner beloved. Take a deep breath in. With great respect and love, I honor my heart, my inner teacher. Namaste. Satgurunand Maharaj Ki Jai. Jagadambe Mata Ki Jai. Jai Ma. So much love. We gotta
Love
do.
you all. Thank you.
Thank you so much to all of you. Thank you.
No.
I'm so grateful. And many comments. I will read them out for the ones who are listening in later on. Thank you for this beautiful morning. What a gift. Can't wait to read your book, Swamiji. Somebody else, Chandrika, saying thank you for the beautiful teachings and for the sharing. Erin, I'm so humbly grateful. Can't wait to read the book with great respect and love. Thank you. Wishing
Come
you.
on, I need help getting that book to a bestseller. We gotta wake up this
Let's do
world,
it.
people.
Let's do it.
I need you.
Oh gosh, we're doing it.
Okay, thank you so much.
Okay. So much love to you all. Enjoy your weekend. Jay.